John Oliver railed against the timeshare industry in a recent episode of his show, Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. In this video today, I'm going to talk about what I think he got right, what he got wrong, and what he didn't tell you. Hello, I'm Jeremy, and welcome to Destination Timeshare. So today in this video, we're going to be talking about John Oliver on timeshare in that episode where he kind of lambasted the timeshare industry as well as the timeshare exit industry. And we're going to start off going over what he got right. And that just happens to be that the timeshare industry, its practices, how it goes about sales, and how it actually goes about acquiring potential customers is really not that good of a business model. Well, it seems like a good business model, at least for the timeshare industry and the developers, but not so much for consumers. So he did mention that customers are often suckered into a timeshare sales presentation. I don't necessarily believe it's being suckered in, because people want something for free, whether it be a free dinner, maybe free tickets to attractions or shows, maybe it's even cash, or maybe it's even points in a loyalty program. Don't necessarily agree that people are getting suckered in, but he also didn't show us something interesting from that video that he shared from the Queen of Versailles movie, where after the clip of that meeting where the executive was kind of firing up his staff to go out, make a sale, sell them something, you know, he didn't actually kind of go on and continue of what they actually consider and call the guests that come in and they're trying to sell them a package to. So let's take a look at the rest of the video here.
100% of the people that we're talking to are, it's not a nice word, but we call them mooches. They're coming in for a sales presentation on their vacation for a free gift. So we train our salespeople on how to take someone greedy like that and get them to buy today. We do 100% of our sales on the first day.
They call them mooches. Probably not really a good term, as he said there. And in fact, that was actually Richard Siegel, David Siegel's son, who happens to work at Westgate as well. And I also noticed that John Oliver didn't point out what he might consider nepotism there. But anyway, essentially everybody there is considered mooches. And if you think about me and you've watched any of my other videos, well, you probably realize I'm a mooch too. We've been to over 50 timeshare sales presentations. And guess what? We've not bought a single timeshare from the developer. I actually have a number of videos on the channel about how to get out of your timeshare sales presentation as easily and painless as possible. And I get a number of comments on all of those videos of people calling us mooches. One person actually used the term mooches 4 times in their comment. I suspect highly that they are actually all timeshare salespeople. In fact, one of them I know for sure is, because guess what? When looking at his channel, he's actually subscribed to Timeshare Sales Mastery, which is actually a YouTube channel that's dedicated to helping timeshare salespeople become even better salespeople. So just think of that. There's YouTube channels out there trying to help timeshare salespeople get better at selling you timeshare. So what John Oliver kind of failed to even cover here is, if you don't want to get suckered into buying a timeshare, just don't go to these timeshare sales presentations. Dave Ramsey, in fact, the person he criticized quite a bit here when it came to timeshare exit, we'll talk about it in a minute, well, he actually is vehemently against even going to these things. He said, basically just pay for your own dinner, pay for your own trip, pay for your own attraction tickets. Don't go, especially if you have problems saying no. And obviously, you know, if we've been to 50, I don't have any problems saying no to them at all. All right, now let's quickly talk about some other things. He kind of railed against the industry because essentially people buy a timeshare, they never use it, they're hard to use. So I just want to kind of point out a couple things here. There are other things out there in the consumer world that people buy and never use. Number one is a gym membership. In fact, according to exercise.com, 67% of people who purchase and sign up for a gym membership don't use it. And in fact, the gym industry kind of relies on this, because some of the Planet Fitness gyms, apparently they have on average 6,000 to 7,000 members, and they only hold 300 in total. So the gym industry relies on people not using their membership, kind of in the same way that the timeshare industry does. And also with gyms, how many times have you heard people say or complain, or even reviews online, that they can't get out of their gym membership? It takes all kinds of calls, takes all kinds of letters, emails, telling the people at the gym They want to cancel and they just can't. So that's another kind of thing about gym memberships and timeshare. They're both kind of, well, gym memberships is not as hard to get out of as you think, but people always complain they're hard to get out of, hard to cancel, and people don't rail against the gym industry at all. Fitness equipment is another thing here. How often have you bought a new exercise bike, maybe a new treadmill for several $1,000s, and then after a few times using it, you're like, forget it, and it just sits there. Maybe it gets used for drying your clothes. Who knows? A lot of people buy things with good intentions, and timeshare is probably one of them. Maybe they were pressured in, maybe they weren't, but they buy it with good intentions, and they're not willing to put the work in, thinking gyms and fitness equipment, to get the value out. So again, timeshares, they're not great for everybody, but for those willing to put the time in, it can be a fantastic vacation product. All right, so if you're watching this video and you've made it this far, I'm sure you're liking this commentary here, and I really appreciate it if you could give this a thumbs up. Though maybe if you're a timeshare salesperson like one of the 5 over here on this video about how to legally cancel your timeshare in the right of rescission period, who else would give that video a thumbs down unless you're a timeshare salesperson? Well, 5 people did, so I guess if you're a timeshare salesperson, you're going to give this video a thumbs down anyway. Although I do have another video talking about how Dave Ramsey is wrong about timeshare, and that is actually about a 50-50 split on thumbs up and thumbs down. So I would appreciate it though if you give this video a thumbs up. It really does help out the channel, helps out this video, gets it out to more people looking to learn about timeshare. Appreciate it very much, and thank you. All right, now another thing about John Oliver and how he was right about timeshare, and that is just in fact the entire timeshare exit industry. It is completely and totally and pretty much a scam. They're not doing really anything that you can't do for yourself to get out of timeshare. In a lot of cases, they're just telling you to stop paying, and the week goes into foreclosure, and hey, you're out. In fact, that's one of the things that the Attorney General of Washington kind of accused timeshare exit team of doing, was that they considered a foreclosure as a successful exit. And all the other exit companies kind of do the same. First thing they're going to do is they're going to try and go to the resort and negotiate a deed back. Let's just take a quick listen to a timeshare exit attorney calling into the Dave Ramsey show talking about just that.
It is much easier for you to get out of your timeshare contract if you are what is known in the industry as paid in full. If you've paid off your timeshare mortgage, and that's a thing, most timeshare purchases are financed. If you're paid in full, we can often negotiate a release for you from the timeshare pushing company.
So it might be just as simple as that. If you have a paid in full timeshare, you can call up the resort yourself, call up the HOA, send them some letters, send them some emails. If you're looking for some contact information for them, well, you can check out responsibleexit.com. It's put up there by ARDA, the American Resort Development Association. And they have some contact information there for all of the major timeshare brands. So John Oliver was definitely right here when he said timeshare exit is bad. And he was also right to accuse Dave Ramsey of kind of being on the side of timeshare exit, especially timeshare exit team, because in a number of videos I've watched, Dave Ramsey essentially, that was his first go-to when somebody called in with a timeshare issue. Hey, go to timeshare exit team. And really, if you're giving true financial advice to help your callers, then you really want to kind of have them start with the best options that they can do themselves for free. And in fact, I'm going to put a link in the description box below to a video from a channel called Laptop Seniors, where he actually gives some really good tips, some ideas on how to get out of your timeshare. He actually got out of 25 of them using those tips. So go over there and check that out if you're trying to get out. I was actually kind of surprised by how unique some of them were. The timeshare exit industry, definitely very scammy. And that's one thing where John Oliver was definitely very right. Now let's take a look at those results of a survey that John Oliver mentioned, where he indicated that 85% of timeshare owners that go to contract actually regret their purchase. Seems like a little bit of an odd response to a survey because essentially all timeshare owners do go to contract. But anyway, I believe those results are actually from a study done by the University of Central Florida. I've tried searching all over for that survey, for the results, for a summary of it. All I can really find is just that 85% in a number of different news articles, and of course featured pretty heavily on timeshare exit company websites. Now, ARDA, the American Resort Development Association, essentially the trade organization for the timeshare development industry, well, they actually commissioned their own survey, which turned up the opposite, that 85% of timeshare owners have a good, very good, or excellent overall experience with their timeshare. And they even happen to think that somehow 72% of timeshare owners probably or likely would recommend timeshare ownership. So those two studies are definitely on different ends of the spectrum. Now we can definitely surmise that that ARDA study is probably biased towards the timeshare industry. And I don't really know where that other survey came from the University of Central Florida, like I said. So really can't tell too much about that, what specific questions were asked, and actually who commissioned that study as well. I actually reached out to the University of Central Florida Library to see if I can get my hands on that survey. If you happen to know where it is though, put it down in the comments below. But since those two studies are so far apart, I actually had to do my own survey, so I put one up on my community tab on my channel here at Destination Timeshare, and guess what? 69% of people say they are satisfied with their timeshare ownership, and 21% say they're dissatisfied. Now I do have a 10% in there that don't own timeshare, but I wanted to give them an option anyway, just to say they could click a button. Seems like actually, at least from people that watch my channel, overall, most people are actually quite happy with their ownership. Now, of course, these are people that are researching, trying to better understand their ownership, and they might actually be more likely to use it. All right, now we're going to talk about the one big glaring omission that John Oliver did not include in his episode. And that just happens to be the resale timeshare market. He did show some timeshares for sale or listed at $0. He said, hey, you could just give your timeshare to somebody else, but you'd just be screwing them over instead. Well, that's not necessarily true, because somebody who's out there looking for a resale timeshare, well, guess what? They're actually educated. They know what they're looking for. They know what they want. You can save thousands upon tens of thousands of dollars by going out and looking at the resale market. You won't have that initial depreciation loss, as you could call it, from buying retail to what you could resell it for. You're buying after all that has been taken out, just like buying a used car. Now, I truly believe that timeshare ownership is an excellent vacation product. The key here is you have to use it, and you have to know the tips and tricks to better understand it and be able to make reservations in advance to get the best opportunity for availability. Availability can sometimes be a challenge, but this usually happens when people aren't prudent enough to make sure they're calling on the first day or very shortly after when inventory is released. Now, that's actually one of the things that really stood out to me during the episode when they showed a news clip featuring the Nasir family trying to book their Westgate timeshare. Let's take a look at that and see what the problems they specifically had.
First year,
I call a month in advance. They say, you're giving us a very short notice.
so year 2, they called 6 months in advance.
You are calling too early.
Year 3, they called 2 months in advance, but we're told they called too late.
You can still go, but we have to charge you like any other person.
So far, the Nasirs have spent more than $15,000 for a timeshare they've never spent a single night in.
So there you go. That is really one of the fundamental problems that most people have with timeshare. Either they can't plan far enough in advance, or they simply don't plan far enough in advance. You can't be calling in 1, 2, or even 3 months prior to check-in to get a reservation. And in fact, the Nasir family there, they were trying to reserve with Westgate, which actually allows you to reserve up to 11 months in advance. So that was a fundamental mistake that they made trying to get those reservations that they were looking for. And this is one thing where a lot of people make mistakes. They don't do enough research about obviously what they're buying when they buy it, but after they own it, they're not putting the work in, they're not doing the research. So my tips here are to check out online community forums, Facebook groups about your specific timeshare system, or even the specific resort that you own. And then you also have the TUGBBS and Timeshare Users Group. So go and check those out. I'm actually going to leave a link to the TUGBBS Forums down below in the description. Go over there, learn what you need to do, put your research in, learn from other owners, and then after you've learned from other owners, maybe you can help new owners as well. So this is one thing where I think John Oliver was actually wrong about timeshare. It all sounded bleak, bad, and awful, but timeshare can be great if you're willing to put the work in. And if you are, well, I have a video for you here. It gives you some information about how to buy a timeshare. Check that out. And thanks for watching. And remember, until next time, and especially for those that are anti-timeshare, against timeshare, hate timeshare, oh, the best destination is always a timeshare.